Some stories begin with a dream, others with a loss. But Mackenzie Scott's story began with a quiet decision, the kind that changes the world without ever demanding attention. In a society obsessed with accumulation and status, she chose a different path, to turn her fortune into freedom for others. While many competed to appear on the world's richest lists, Mackenzie was focused on something far greater, disappearing from those lists by giving most of her wealth away. Her goal wasn't recognition. It was restoration. She wanted to restore dignity, hope, and opportunity where they had been forgotten. Today, you will hear the story of a woman who was a writer before she was a billionaire, a dreamer before she was a philanthropist, a woman who decided that true wealth isn't measured by what you keep, but by what you give. This is the story of Mackenzie Scott, the woman who redefined success in the 21st century. Long before the world knew her name, Mackenzie Scott was simply a young girl with an obsession for words. Born in San Francisco in 1970, she grew up in a home where curiosity was nurtured like oxygen. Her childhood was quiet yet vivid, filled with notebooks, stories, and long hours of imagination. By the age of 6, she was writing her first tales. By 11, she had already decided she wanted to be a novelist. Her mother, patient and encouraging, never dismissed her dreams. She understood that writing wasn't just a hobby for Mackenzie. It was how she made sense of life. When Mackenzie entered Princeton University, she pursued creative writing under the mentorship of the legendary Toni Morrison, a Nobel Prize winner who immediately noticed her rare discipline and emotional depth. Morrison would later say that Mackenzie was one of the best students she ever had. From Morrison, Mackenzie learned something that would stay with her forever. Writing is listening to what the world hasn't said yet. That wisdom became her compass, in literature and in life. Years later, when she published her first novel, The Testing of Luther Albright, in 2005, critics praised her for her mature storytelling and psychological insight. But commercial success didn't matter to her. What she valued most was authenticity, not applause. And though she couldn't have known it then, the same humility that guided her as a writer would one day define her legacy as one of the most generous people on earth. In the mid-1990s, life placed Mackenzie in the middle of a revolution, not of words, but of technology. After graduating, she worked as an assistant at a small hedge fund in New York City called D.E. Shaw. It was there she met a young, brilliant colleague named Jeff Bezos. Both shared a fascination for ideas, innovation, and the courage to dream beyond convention. In 1993, they married and soon left New York to start an online bookstore that would later reshape global commerce, Amazon. In the early days, Mackenzie was not a passive observer. She drove their old Chevy across the country to Seattle, helped write the company's first business plan, and managed accounting during Amazon's fragile beginnings in a small rented garage. The long nights and uncertainty didn't scare her. Mackenzie's grounding came not from the promise of wealth, but from her faith in creativity and persistence. As Amazon grew from a small startup into one of the most influential companies in the world, so did the couple's fortune. A fortune that would one day test Mackenzie's true values. She remained behind the spotlight for decades, focusing on raising their 4 children and continuing her writing. But inside she was evolving, quietly asking herself, what is the purpose of abundance if not to serve something greater? That question would become her North Star when life demanded reinvention. In 2019, after 25 years of marriage, Mackenzie Scott and Jeff Bezos announced their divorce. The world focused on the financial aspect, the $38 billion settlement that instantly made her one of the wealthiest women alive. But Mackenzie saw something entirely different, a chance to begin again, to realign her life with her values. That same year, she signed the Giving Pledge, joining philanthropists like Warren Buffett and Bill Gates in committing to donate most of her fortune. Yet Mackenzie's approach was uniquely her own. She refused to build a foundation or bureaucracy. She chose speed, trust, and impact. Rather than forcing organizations through endless evaluations, she empowered them. In her words, I believe that people who are closest to the challenges are the best equipped to know how to solve them. Her donations were astonishing, not only for their size, but for their philosophy. In less than 3 years, Mackenzie distributed over 16 billion euro to more than 1,600 organizations, universities serving minorities, food banks, shelters for domestic violence survivors, programs for LGBTQ+ rights, and nonprofits dedicated to climate justice. Each check carried not her name, but her faith in humanity. Her generosity moved like quiet thunder, powerful, unstoppable, yet almost invisible. She didn't give interviews, didn't hold press conferences. She simply gave and kept writing, reflecting, and living with radical simplicity. The world began to realize Mackenzie Scott wasn't trying to build an empire. She was dismantling the illusion that one is needed to make a difference. By 2023, Mackenzie Scott had become a phenomenon unlike any other in modern philanthropy. Her giving redefined the concept of wealth itself. Instead of building her name, she built momentum, a chain of kindness that rippled through education, social justice, and community rebuilding. Organizations that had struggled for decades suddenly found new life. Small colleges serving marginalized groups could finally provide scholarships and facilities. Community centers that once fought to survive now expanded their reach. Her giving was not charity. It was empowerment. Mackenzie often spoke through her writing more than through interviews. In a blog post, she once wrote, "There are countless ways to share wealth. Money is only one of them." Her message was simple yet revolutionary, that real change begins when we trust others with the power to shape their own future. While others measured success and influence, Mackenzie measured it in impact. She lived quietly in Washington state, far from luxury and fame, continuing to support projects that often went unnoticed. Her humility became her signature, and her silence, her loudest message. In an age where so many seek to be seen, she reminded the world that greatness often thrives in the unseen. Mackenzie Scott's story isn't about fortune, it's about freedom. The freedom that comes from choosing meaning over material, compassion over control, and contribution over competition. She reminds us that generosity is not about how much we give, but how deeply we understand that nothing truly belongs to us, unless it uplifts others. In her quiet revolution, she has turned the act of giving into a form of art, one that paints hope where there was despair and possibility where there was neglect. Every person who benefits from her actions carries a spark of her legacy, even if they never know her name. And perhaps that's the greatest sign of purpose, when what we build outlives our recognition. May her journey remind us that power, when guided by empathy, becomes healing, and that sometimes the most extraordinary stories begin the moment we decide to let go. If this story inspired you, share your thoughts below. Tell us where you're watching from and what part of Mackenzie's journey moved you most. Your comment may spark someone else's reflection, because, like Mackenzie taught us, change begins quietly, but it never ends.